You see, the first mandate of the church is the spread of the good news. The spread of the good news. Jesus gave, was not, he didn't solicit something from St. Peter. He commanded St. Peter and all the apostles to do something. I don't know whether we have our Bibles here. I don't know whether any committee, you may have it on soft copy in your phones. Please, if you have, if there is any fast manipulator of the phone, please could you read Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 to 20. You can read it in French or in English. Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 to 20. If not, I'll read it myself. If no communicator has a Bible here, I'll read it myself. All right.
Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 to 20. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age.
Thank you very much, Father. Has somebody gotten it in French?
Allez, faites de toutes les nations des disciples, les baptisant au nom du Père, du Fils et du Saint-Esprit, et enseignez-leur à observer tout ce que je vous ai prescrit. Et voici, je suis avec vous tous les jours jusqu'à la fin du monde.
Merci beaucoup, mon Père. This is the heart of the church. This is the meaning of the foundation of the church. This was given by Christ to Peter and the apostle as the beginning of the church. This is the first responsibility of the Holy Father. And I am sure his visit here is to evangelize. And that is also the first task of all the bishops, College of Bishops, and you can go on to reflect on that. That is the responsibility of all of us priests, religious, and that is the responsibility of the laity, to go out and proclaim the good news. I am sure if the Pontifical Mission Societies finance partly this seminar, this formation, it is because Pontifical Mission Societies, especially Pontifical Missionary Union, has an orientation towards formation, towards the spread of the gospel. And the Holy Father can't do this task alone. He cannot bilocate, he cannot multi-locate. The Holy Father has the dicastery for evangelization. And this dicastery for evangelization uses as tools, as instruments, the Pontifical Mission Societies for the spread of the gospel, of the good news, to the ends of the missio ad gentes. And the Pontifical Mission Society, to ensure continuity and a kind of link, has created in every country a national office for the Pontifical Mission Societies. So our office is here, and rather there are projects like this to build people who will help to evangelize the message, we come in very powerfully to sponsor, to support, to guide, and to lead. And I am sure that is why I am here, because I link up for that Pontifical Mission Society to see that communicators, Catholic communicators, we have to emphasize, Catholic communicators are collaborators, and very much important collaborators as far as the spread of the gospel is concerned. That is the task. And that is why we have gathered here to reflect on how this message of the gospel can be properly spread even in present times, even with social media and all the things that come along. that is to the people not yet baptized, those who have been baptized, those who don't know the gospel, and those who have got to grow through the message of the gospel. In the language of the Catholic Church, it refers to missionary activities directed towards non-Christians, those who have been baptized, and even those who must grow in that message. And it is distinct from ordinary pastoral care within already established Christian communities. There's a kind of fine distinction. The expression was given central importance by the decree Directeurs in the Second Vatican Council in 1965, which is dedicated specifically to the Church's missionary activity. Missio Directeurs involves proclaiming the gospel to those who are in need of the message of Christ of conversion. Every initial proclamation, which is pleinement, is given to what we call primary evangelization, founding of new Christian communities. But then it also includes incorporation of the Christian message within different cultures. And it is distinct, as I said, from ordinary pastoral care. New evangelization directed towards those who have drifted away from the faith. We now bring them to give them the new dimension of our formation, of our evangelization. Now, the important thing after all of this I have presented is the message is there, the gospel is there, the doctrine of the church exists, the Bible is there, but who is supposed to go out to spread this good news? You have the Holy Father, who is the first. You have the bishops, you have the priests, you have deacons, and then you also have all of us, and especially those who can use different means of communication to spread this good news. And that is why I am sure St. Paul, in Romans chapter 10 following, said something which is very important about how this message should be. I don't know whether we can, somebody has his Bible again, if we can open to Romans chapter 10, verses 13 to 20. Romans chapter 10, verses 13 to 20. Somebody can read that. Romans chapter 10, verses 13 to 20. Romans 10, 13 to 20.
Romans.
Car quiconque invoquera le nom du Seigneur sera sauvé. Comment donc invoqueront-ils celui en qui ils n'ont pas cru? Et comment croiront-ils en celui dont ils n'ont pas entendu parler? Et comment ils entendront-ils parler s'il n'y a personne qui prêche? Et comment y aura-t-il des prédicateurs s'ils ne sont pas envoyés? Selon qu'il est écrit, ils sont beaux les pieds de ceux qui annoncent la paix, de ceux qui annoncent les bonnes nouvelles. Mais tous n'ont pas obéi à la bonne nouvelle. Aussi, Isaïe dit-il, Seigneur, qui a cru à notre prédication? Ainsi, la foi vient de ce qu'on entend, et ce qu'on entend vient de la parole de Christ. Mais je dis, n'ont-ils pas entendu? Au contraire, leur voix est allée par toute la terre, et leur parole jusqu'aux extrémités du monde. Et je dis, Israël ne l'a-t-il pas su? Moïse le premier dit, j'exciterai votre jalousie par ce qui n'est point une nation. Je provoquerai votre colère par une nation sans intelligence. Et Isaïe pousse la rater jusqu'à dire, j'ai été trouvé par ceux qui ne me cherchaient pas. Je me suis manifesté à ceux qui ne me demandaient pas.
Thank you very much, Father. And somebody reading in English, but you
Romans chapter 10, chapter number 10, verse 13 to 15. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? And it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news.
Thank you very much. How can they listen to this gospel, this message of evangelization, except someone is sent? This is what we know. Who are those who are sent? We are the ones. Especially those of us who have been trained to communicate, because there is a way to pass across the good news, the message of salvation. And I would dare say that Catholic communication is for nothing but for evangelization. Therefore, that is where we are found, because we are sent. And so the conversion of the world depends a little bit too much in our hands. The transmission of the gospel to the ends of the earth is also a responsibility that we carry quite heavily on our heads. And the church already knew this long ago. That is why Catholic communication existed. Has been existing. And all we are trying to do is to see how it could exist even better. Catholic communication in the digital world refers to the use of digital technologies and online platforms to share, witness to, and live out the teachings of the Catholic Church in ways that are fruitful, faithful to the gospel, and responsive to modern culture. That is Catholic communication, and that is where we are found. Historically, it has been existing. It is not as if it started today. The Holy Father already, in the 15th century, the Holy Father had what we call the radio of the Bishop of Rome. And he used to move around with that radio station, so that whatever he had as a message would be spread as far as that radio could carry. That was already in the 15th century. And after that, in the 20th century, there was the Catholic television in the Vatican. That was the instrument that the Holy Father used at that time to spread the good news and move from place to place, spreading this good news within, the confines of the Vatican and the dioceses around Italy. So it already was existing. And in our context, I am sure we can also speak with a lot of confidence that we have tried, because in this Episcopal conference some years ago, there was a very powerful communication system. I don't know where it has gone to, when it used to exist. It was very powerful. It was the strongest. Father Philip will have the historical facts about that. And in the archdiocese of Douala, we have what? Marqué. We also have the Conseil, which is there. We have the radio, we have the television. In the own year, we have what? Radio Maria. In the archdiocese of Bamenda, Mama Maria with Priscilla is there. We started radio evangelism. And I'm sure it is still functioning. Even before that, we used to do broadcasts for the group news to CRT. In the diocese of Bafusa, we have a radio station. In almost all the dioceses of Cameroon, we have some radio stations. Probably except Baturi and probably Bejoua, I don't know. But I am sure they are working towards that. Already now in the diocese of Boya, we have the Divine Mercy radio and television. Not so. That means it has been existing. That means we have been using it. And that means we have to see how to use this means of communication better. And as one priest says, one person seated and that person has a radio. Every other person who listens to that person is also benefiting at the same time from that same message. So the spread becomes multiplied. But then, the point is, what is it that we preach? The message of the gospel must follow the doctrine of the church, the catechism of the Catholic Church. It must flow from the Bible. It must bring up the dignity of the human person to the level of expectation. It must be morally upright for the society. And it must be the truth. It must be the truth. I'm saying this because I have a few, I'm in a forum of ex-seminarians, ex-minor seminarians. I'm tempted to get out of that forum because what they say about priests is heaven. And it's not true. When you go to verify what an ex-seminarian in that forum says, and those who speak negatively, most of the times I try to verify what they say about the actions of priests, you discover that 80% of it is a lie. And some of them are journalists. That is why we have to make a distinction between Catholic communication and what happens in the world. Because for us Catholic communicators, our communication is based on the message of Christ. When Father Anu spoke yesterday or 2 days ago, he said Jesus was the communicator, the first communicator, and we follow after him because what we preach is the truth. So whenever a Catholic communicator wants to do something, he must ask, am I evangelizing through what I say, through how I live that my life, and through what I teach? Am I a good communicator? I was just sharing that. And so this has been existing. The message of the gospel in historical terms has been existing. And as I say, the church has not ignored that there is development, and even the Vatican accounts on platforms like those that have shows and active effort that follows on development, online engagement. Yet each new tool has brought both opportunities and risks. The printing press, for example, also fueled the Reformation by spreading dissension and dissenting views. Social media, which we have today, carries a dual nature that requires careful consideration. How has the church embraced this innovation of digital platforms, social media presence? Many dioceses and parishes actively use platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to engage with their congregation and share messages. I know some parish priests who have a WhatsApp group for the parish, and they can understand what is happening with the people of God at each moment. That is also wonderful. Podcasts and streaming. There is a growing trend of podcasts and live streamed masses, allowing broader access to teachings and services. I'm sure that many of us at 5 a.m. already, by the time you go onto your phone, your WhatsApp group, you will have the readings of the day, the gospel of the day, and probably some reflection on that day, and sometimes video, and you can begin your day that way. That is how the church is now navigating into these things. But then, challenges and opportunities. Navigating misinformation. The church faces challenges in combating misinformation and ensuring accurate representation of Catholic teachings online. This morning, I went into my phone and again in that forum of ex-seminarian, I saw something about the Holy Father's hand. It is nasty. What they have written there is not good to read. Misinformation. If they were here when the news was talking yesterday, maybe they would have understood. Or maybe they are just rebellious. Because I did not even have the courage to read right to the end. Fast. Misinformation. And the church is suffering that challenge. We are suffering that in Cameroon. Youth engagement. Engaging younger audiences remains a priority, with efforts to create relatable content that resonates with their experiences. You agree with me that our young people pick up what is negative much more than what is positive. Resources and initiatives. The Vatican's digital outreach. The Vatican has launched various initiatives to enhance its online presence, including a revamped website and active social media engagement for evangelization. Training and support. Many organizations provide training for clergy and lay people on effective digital communication strategies, and that is what Conseil Mission Societies is doing here in Cameroon now with this formation. Overall, the Catholic Church is increasingly recognizing the importance of digital communication as a tool for evangelization and community building. So Catholicism has a long history of adapting to all of these forms, which I have explained in our various dioceses about the historical growth that we have had and we are still having. Dear friends, this time around there's what we call AI, and that is the theme of our presentation. AI, but not just on modern social communication. AI, artificial intelligence. And I try to find out the definition which you know better. They say it's a field of computer science focused on creating systems that can perform tasks that normally requires human intelligence. That's an interesting definition. It's a field of computer science focused on creating systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Now, when I went through this, I was asking myself, can anything replace human intelligence? Can anything really replace human intelligence? Perfectly. I doubt. I share with you an experience. I went to an AI platform and I asked, who is scared to Ashu Ama? And I read disaster. Yes, it's written there, it's a Catholic truth. But then many things came out that I could not reconcile with myself. Yes, it is written there, pontifical appointed from the Vatican in May 2022, correct. But a chunk of information, that is not me. If you ask me where they got it, me, I don't know. But I have the impression that this AI, since it wants to become the human intelligence to know so much, picks from everywhere in the world where somebody has said something about you, positive or negative, and then puts them together. And therefore means that Catholic communicators must be able to penetrate these things, take out, peel out what is not evangelization, and present what is evangelization. That is my understanding of it. And that is where our goal surely must stand. And for us to know that, we must know the doctrine. You know, that's why I came here and I have not anybody has the Bible. Thank God that sometimes you have it now. Digital. A Catholic communicator, if you don't know the Bible, if you do not know the Bible, you have a problem. I will dare say it will be good to copy from these people who come from different churches, because you see a little fellow comes to preach and quote, and they quote it sometimes correctly. If you do not know the Bible, you have a problem, because you can be challenged anywhere. You see how you people challenge us when you ask us questions, huh? You could be challenged also. If you do not know the catechism of the Catholic Church, as a Catholic communicator, you have a problem. You will not know how to peel out rubbish from this chunk that is presented by AI in order to give the right information. If you do not know the catechism of the Catholic Church, and I don't know how many of us here has a copy. Do we have copies of the Catholic? For your personal use. If you do not have, then there's a problem. And if you have not read it, begin by reading it as a novel. It's very interesting to read the Catechism of the Catholic Church. If you do not have the Second Vatican Council document, you have a problem. I'm sure some of you are married. If you know the difficulties that are found in a marital relationship, you have a problem. That means if you are not ready, it's not just to have. Because just as I went and into this AI stuff and I found out where to start to hammer, I know myself. I could take out what is not mine, and then I could put aside what is really me. Then for us communicators, it's for us to take out what is not the Catholic Church, what is not the truth, and to put up what is the truth. And St. Paul says, as we read, how can we send preachers if they don't know? And how can these preachers preach if they themselves don't know? And so the work of the Pontifical Mission Societies is to make sure that Catholic communicators know exactly what they are supposed to preach. Penetrate these AI stuffs. Put out all that which is not correct. And then bring to the people of God what is supposed to be preached. That is our message. That is our task. So I just shared this note, this personal experience. You can also go and tap it and find out who you are. You may discover something that you will not want to read. Dear brothers and sisters, to continue, before I terminate, as I said, I was not going to talk for too long. What are some of these advantages, or how has some of these social media styles and AI have they been of help to the Catholic Church? The reach of social media in evangelization. One clear advantage of social media is its ability to reach vast audiences quickly, immediately. You just post something there, everybody sees it the next minute. Catholic priests, lay people, and organizations can share homilies, prayers. We are sharing much. First with that. A single post can inspire someone halfway across the world to explore the faith. This aligns with the Church's mission to evangelize all nations. As outlined in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 849 to 856, platforms like Instagram and YouTube allow for creative expressions of faith, such as videos of the Mass or explanations of doctrine. These tools can draw in younger generations who spend much of their time online. Secondly, building community through digital platforms. Social media can strengthen bonds among Catholics worldwide. I just take an example of those of us from the ecclesiastical province of Amenda, where you have small Christian communities. Many of the small Christian communities, with a church in the neighborhood, that means those various Christians are not in church, in the quarters, and then they share the Bible every week. Many of those LCCs have what they call WhatsApp groups, and then they share. And you can see how even young people who go into it will be able to share a reflection of the Word of God. That is transforming. So it is transforming our community. These spaces allow for prayers, discussions, and much. During events like the COVID-19 pandemic, live streamed masses kept the faithful united when churches closed. Archbishop was parish priest at that time. The father, when you say mass, let them broadcast it so that those who cannot come at least pray at home. It was so much. Parishes have also used platforms like Facebook to announce events and share resources. The church teaches that physical presence at Mass remains essential. Yeah, it is essential. That's Catechism of the Catholic Church 1778. The institutions like during the COVID pandemic, you could see Mass for the people of God to pray. I see in the Divine Mercy regular television, many of the Christians follow the 3 o'clock Divine Mercy prayer. And you see how some people kneel down and hoping that they are not living there in front of the television to be part of that prayer. Educating and faithful online. Another strength of social media is its potential as an educational tool. Catholic apologists and scholars can explain context teaching in simple terms using social media. And that is important. And communicators can organize that. The speed of sharing Catholic content. The rapid pace of social media allows Catholic content to spread faster than ever before. A papal encyclical or a bishop's statement can reach the faithful within minutes of release. Like yesterday, immediately after the news at midday, the world, everybody in the world knew that Holy Father is coming to Cameroon. Social media as a tool for prayer. Many Catholics use social media to enhance their prayer life. Accounts dedicated to daily scripture or the rosary provide spiritual nourishment online. I don't know. Maybe the fathers can explain this by the end. Christian called me and said, Father, I would like to go for confession on the phone. On the phone. I don't know, fathers, how you handle these things. But I know that you also people then do that. Want to go for confession on the phone. And sometimes we administer over social media. And sacraments we administer. Some people call, Father, bless me now, so bless me. Bless me, man, if you are. Bless me, let me feel you now. Over the phone. Challenge of misinformation. A major drawback of social media is the spread of false information about Catholicism and the hierarchy of the church. There is a fellow now, he's not going to know you. He is terrible. He just needs to pick up a picture of a place and he will write preaches. I remember I visited the Diocese of Boya for the first time. I don't know me this fellow. I've never met him. I left the seminary so many years before he went there and was dismissed. And after my movement with the bishop, I took a picture. I don't know how that picture got to this fellow. This fellow gave an analysis of an idea to Statue Armand in 5 pages. And I was messed up from head to toe. I never met him. He doesn't know me. It's also a problem. The Catechism of the Catholic Church fights against this. And division online. The internet often amplifies division, and Catholics are not immune. Debates over liturgy, politics, and doctrine can turn hostile on platforms, and there are so many of them. The danger of distraction. Social media can pull attention away from the spiritual priorities. Endless scrolling competes with time of prayer, mass, or family. The church teaches that faith requires focus and discipline. If you will read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2705 to 2708, you will see that faith requires focus and discipline. In fact, for us Catholics and for communicators, it is a priority. Faith. Studies show people check their phones dozens of times daily, often impulsively, but sometimes they don't look at what will enrich them spiritually. And sometimes when they check, they don't get much of that which will enrich them spiritually, enrich their faith. And we are supposed to push that right forward. These habits can cloud our reflection and can pull us away from the trends. Privacy and the digital age. Online platforms raise concerns about personal data and privacy. Catholics sharing their faith might expose themselves. That's another danger. Into scrutiny and harassment. The church values the dignity of each person, including their right to privacy. Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2488 to 2492. Social media companies often collect user information for profit, which can feel intrusive, and we must take note of this. The temptation of vanity. Social media can feed into pride and self-focus, which the church warns against. If you read Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1866, posting about faith might slip into seeking to be given now for work together in new ways. A priest might share a homily, a sermon that parishioners amplify. The Eucharist, that is what confirmed Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1373, requires presence. Digital tools can on the screen.
Yes.
There's adoration happening in the Basilica. And instead of going there, since it's online, on live, let me just sit in my house and you put your TV on and you kneel down and you are there. Is that exactly what happened? A street mass might help the home bound, but it's not the same. The faithful must prioritize real-world sacraments over virtual ones. Online activity should point back to the parish, not compete with it. The Catechism ties holiness to community and liturgy. Confirmed Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2012 to 2016. Social media's role is secondary. It's a bridge to deeper practice for evangelization. Catholics must resist letting screens define their faith. The balance is key to thriving in this age. And we communicators must know that. The church's official stance. The Vatican has embraced social media while urging caution. Pope Francis has called it a gift when used for good, as in his 2019 World Communications Day message. He stresses sharing truth and building bridges online. The church sees potential for evangelization, but warns of its risks. Confirmed Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2493 to 2499. Official accounts like Yahoo Pontifex, and all of that, model this approach with clear positive posts. Bishops are encouraged to guide their flocks, and all of us communicators should help our bishops to guide the flock in digital spaces. The stance is practical. Use the tool, but guard against its flaws. This reflects a long tradition of engaging culture critically. Catholics are called to follow this lead. The church aims to shape social media, not to be shaped by it. And we should shape the people of God in the use of social media rather than allow them to be shaped by this. Youth and the digital mission. Young Catholics are native to social media, making them key players in its use. They can reach peers with authentic witness as the church holds. This is found in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2414 to 2422. A team's post about faith might resonate more than a priest. That is true. In the Pontifical Mission Society for the Holy Child, there is what we call Holy Childhood, what we call Children Support Children. When children in some of these countries who have been well formed are trained to contribute towards the growth of other children, the contributions are enormous. Because it's not only them, but their parents and their sponsors. And it is so powerful because it comes from their peers. And so this digital platform, those of us who are communicators can train young people to post something about faith towards other young people. Not just issues that concern life and their bodies, but something on the faith, and we transform them. Long-term effects of the faith. The long-term impact of social media on Catholicism is still unfolding. It could strengthen global unity or deepen divisions, depending on its use, and it depends on us and future communicators. The church has survived technological shifts before, adapting without losing its core. Catechism of the Catholic Church, numbers 1 to 3. Social media might make faith more visible, or it might thin it out. The faithful will shape this outcome. Communicators shall shape this outcome through their work. The Catechism roots its hope in God's plan, not human tools. Catholics must keep eternity in view, not just trends. The digital age tests resilience as past eras did. Faith survival depends on living it fully, online and off. The church trusts in the grace to guide all of us in this path. Practical steps for Catholic online, for Catholic communicators. Catholics can use social media and AI well by following clear steps. First, they should verify content against the Catechism of the Catholic Church. We have read the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Because if you have not read and there's something passing across which is wrong, you know you will see it. Communicators must use as content, must verify content against scripture before sharing. Second, they should post with charity, avoiding anger or pride. Third, they should limit screen time to protect prayer and family life. I saw on the Divine Mercy Radio television that in the evenings, they prioritize programs that would put the family together. For me, it's very much that Papa, Mama, and the children are all together, and there's a program that is guiding them on how to live more as a family. Thirdly, as I said, they should limit screen time to provide prayer and family life. Fourth, they should engage in real-world faith practices. First, like masks. Please, we should teach the people of God that physical faith engagement is fruitful and it is what is expected. And only in rare situations that people can depend on screens for prayers and things like that. Fifth, they should support solid Catholic voices online. That's it. They should teach others, especially youth, to discern truth. That is what we are supposed to do. These habits align with church teaching on media. They turn a neutral tool into a force for the good. The goal is fidelity to Christ in every space. If we have it as, as our watchword in whatever I proclaim as a communicator, Catholic communicator, is fidelity to Christ in every space, then you will begin to change many things that we post, or change many things that people post, and contract with some of those things that are not for Christ. And so my conclusion, a tool, not the master. Social media, AI, offers Catholicism both promise and peril. It extends the church's voice, but challenges its depth and unity. The faithful must wield it with care, rooted in doctrine and prayer. The Catechism frames all human work as cooperation with God. Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 307. Online activity is no exception. It must serve the gospel. AI must serve the gospel. We must peel out and extract from it that which is not gospel oriented, so that what comes out to our people, to our faithful, is gospel oriented. The church has faced similar tests and emerged stronger, and so this time we should be determined that tomorrow the church emerges stronger in faith. Social media is a tool, not a master, in Catholic hands. Its value lies in how it draws people to truth, to conversion. Catholics can thrive here if they stay focused on Christ, and we have to give them that communication. The digital age is a call to witness anew, and AI draws us to that even more strongly. That is what I have to share with you this morning. And I just asked a few questions for our reflection. How can AI, artificial intelligence, be a necessary tool for Catholic communication in the spread of the good news in our Cameroon context? How can AI be a necessary tool for Catholic communication in the spread of the good news in our Cameroon context? Secondly, what elements must be considered for the proper use of AI in Catholic communication? What elements must be considered for the proper use of artificial intelligence in Catholic communication? Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
We're going to give some few minutes for sister to give a resume in French, and then if you have questions, we're going to ask.
Je vais m'essayer. Le Père Prétus nous a appris et rappelé que annoncer la bonne nouvelle n'est pas une invitation, mais un ordre du Christ à Pierre et aux autres disciples. Et il nous a exposé l'intérêt de l'Union pontificale missionnaire à la communication catholique, surtout au CONACOM, dans notre contexte. Et il nous a dit que la mission d'annoncer la bonne nouvelle incombe d'abord au pape Saint-Pierre, ensuite aux évêques, aux prêtres, aux fidèles laïcs et à tout le monde. Il a attiré notre attention sur la mission Directeurs qui doit inclure tous les baptisés, les non-baptisés et le monde entier, tous ceux qui ont besoin de la bonne nouvelle et de la conversion. Il nous a rappelé quelle façon de communiquer la bonne nouvelle, et nous sommes tous envoyés. Nous partageons cette responsabilité majeure de communiquer la bonne nouvelle, et nous devons utiliser les TIC pour évangéliser. Les moyens de communication sociale ne sont pas nouveaux dans l'Église. Ils ont toujours existé depuis le XVe siècle. Le Père nous a décliné ces différents moyens que l'Église, notamment le Saint-Siège Vatican, ont déployés au long des siècles dans le respect de l'éthique et de la vérité. Il nous a dit que les moyens modernes de communication, nous devons les utiliser, surtout qu'ils nous offrent des facilités. Et l'Église est de plein pied là-dedans. Les défis sont énormes. Le premier, la désinformation et les compétitions nocives sur les réseaux sociaux, l'engagement des jeunes. Il faut prendre des initiatives pour intéresser les jeunes aujourd'hui. Il y a le défi du manque de profondeur dans les réseaux sociaux, la promotion de la division de la violence, les distractions, la réduction du temps de prière, de la discipline, de la concentration qui pourtant nourrissent la foi. Les outrages au droit à la vie privée, les communicateurs catholiques doivent en prendre conscience, et aussi la vanité. Le Père nous a dit que l'Église a des façons de s'adapter au TIC et à l'intelligence artificielle en paix. Les communicateurs catholiques que nous sommes, nous devons réfuter les mensonges. Il nous a donné des pistes de la première. La doctrine, connaître la doctrine catholique, la doctrine sociale de l'Église, 3, le catéchisme de l'Église catholique, les textes conciliaires, notamment Vatican II, nous devons connaître, lire ces textes, en fait, nos livres de chevet, pour faire jaillir la vérité, réfuter les mensonges sur l'Église, sur sa doctrine, sur ses pasteurs. Et l'Union pontificale missionnaire s'assure donc que les communicateurs catholiques soient davantage outillés dans les réseaux sociaux, les utiliser pour disséminer rapidement la bonne nouvelle et les messages de l'Église, renforcer les liens entre les chrétiens, les échanges, aider les fidèles et le peuple au discernement, accentuer le désir de partage, aider les gens à prier, éduquer les fidèles et promouvoir la collaboration entre clergé et laïcs. Le Père nous a dit que nous sommes des témoins de la vérité et nous devons corriger les erreurs qui circulent dans les publications sur les réseaux sociaux, faire toujours preuve de discernement, et il nous a rappelé que nous avons les compétences, les capacités, le talent pour le faire. Nous devons donc réfuter les allégations mensongères que nous rencontrons sur les réseaux sociaux, vérifier toujours avant de publier, éviter violence et colère dans la communication, limiter le temps d'exposition aux médias, aider les gens à être équilibrés. Et les TIC et l'IA ne doivent pas et ne peuvent pas se substituer au présentiel. Il a rappelé ce que le Saint-Père nous a appris, que les réseaux sociaux sont un don lorsqu'ils sont bien utilisés. Et nous devons utiliser le digital avec prudence. Ne pas laisser les réseaux sociaux nous dicter ou redéfinir notre être chrétien, mais aider les fidèles à utiliser les réseaux sociaux pour mieux vivre la vie chrétienne. Engager les enfants et les jeunes à communiquer la foi aux autres enfants et aux autres jeunes. Il a conclu en disant que l'IA est un outil et non un maître. Nous devons garder en vue notre destination finale qui est la vie éternelle. Et l'IA doit être au service de l'évangélisation. Pour cet objectif, que les fidèles grandissent dans la foi et que nous restons focus dans le Christ. Il nous a donné 2 questions de réflexion. La première, comment l'IA peut-elle devenir un outil nécessaire pour nous, communicateurs catholiques, et quels éléments doivent être considérés pour sa meilleure utilisation. Merci.
Thank you very much, sister. Est-ce qu'on a des questions ou réactions with regards to this presentation?
Thank you very much, Father, for the presentation. I have a worry, and rightly mentioned that the mission of the church is to evangelize. And we evangelize by spreading the joy of the gospel, which is the truth. But sometimes I feel like the church, which spreads the truth, is sometimes afraid of the truth. Because we find ourselves as Catholic communicators in situations where people write on social media, even about the local ordinary, and then we find ourselves, we come out with strategies and feel like, okay, let's have a press conference, let's have something from the authority so that this information does not go viral as we've had cases, and people with little faith, their faith gets killed because these things are not addressed. At the end of the day, those proposals, strategies, sometimes dashed out and overlooked. And we know that the internet never forgets. One day, that thing will resurface and will still hit that particular diocese or country some years after. So, as Catholic communicators, how do you advise us to manage such situations, even though our hands are tied in particular instances, because you cannot do certain things without a pass from the person at the head? Thank you.
To understand that question, it will mean that we know the truth. We do know the truth. But sometimes we are quite slow to proclaim that truth. Or sometimes we don't just proclaim it and insist on it. As St. Paul says, in season and out of season. Hit hard. Listen to or not. I want to say that sometimes the church grinds slowly. The authority will want to get every detail about it. We'll have, even in the interpretation of the Bible, it is said that do not just take a particular it goes some chapters and verses before, and some chapters in order to give a comprehensive information about what is interpreted. Sometimes, I am not defending authority here, but I've seen that sometimes the authority wants to know a global kind of information about this fact, so that when he proclaims, he will not need to come back again to adjust, to add, or to subtract. And this may drag. But that is why we as communicators have access to hierarchy, because we can ask, what could we be saying about this before the right time comes? And we'll be guided, we'll be directed. But sometimes we just wait for him to act and act immediately he may not. It may take some time in order to give a comprehensive solution, a global and we call it a sustainable solution that will just handle the issue once and for all. But as I say, it is not a confrontational issue. The other time when people come out and they write whatever the right is like, I should go back immediately and hit hard. The church goes gradually, handles the facts, puts all of them together, will go into doctrine, will go into history, will go into documents, and will come out with a solution which is global. And you may discover that in handling one issue tomorrow, the church might handle 10 other issues that were problems in the past. And so, do not also forget that the Holy Spirit guides as far as that's concerned.
Thank you very much, Father. Sister had a question.
I have just an observation to make.
Yes.
Because when we look at social media, we notice that it is a violent world. It is violent. So we communicators who engage in social media, most of the time we feel that we are just abandoned by the hierarchy of the church because of what you just mentioned, and takes time to adjust media. For example, when we had the first centuries of the church, we saw how the church was really reacting when there were heresies. The church reacted. The church did not wait for long. Before we had councils, actions, and social media, we need to be really proactive. Donc, je dis, let me say it in French again, la plupart des grands communicateurs catholiques, on préfère parfois garder le silence devant certaines allégations mensongères qui visent l'Église, sa doctrine et ses pasteurs. Parce que quand nous nous engageons, parce que les réseaux sociaux, c'est pas attendre. La réponse officielle peut venir Et dans ces réactions, qu'est-ce que nous devons faire? Parce que quand on va attendre la réponse moins convaincante, parce qu'on saura que bon, on est allé bien cuisiner et puis on a tout fait peut-être pour masquer la vérité, c'est un grand manque de crédibilité. Est-ce que vous, en tant que membre de l'UPM et qui nous aidez à communiquer, quelles astuces vous pouvez nous donner pour faire face à ce frein-là que nous ressentons parfois, et quand les gens s'engagent à défendre l'Église, elles sont abandonnées et parfois même vilipendées et mis de côté. Or, vous êtes tout le temps sur les réseaux sociaux, on ne peut pas vous faire confiance. Moi, j'ai entendu des pasteurs dire ça de certains de leurs prêtres, et qui préfèrent donc s'asseoir, on laisse vilipender l'Église et on attend le jour où l'Église va apporter une réponse qui sera dépassée, qui sera caduque. Qu'est-ce que vous donnez comme conseil?
I think the first word that I will share here is that we have said it here, that the church should not allow itself to be shaped by social media. Social media is violent. The church cannot be violently approachable over social media. Christ himself was never violent. And if you would have watched or maybe followed, the whole passion story, you will see that even a 2-week policeman slapped Jesus. And he was not a guy. Under normal circumstances, me, I will not believe it. But Jesus allows it. And he had the power to do everything. So social media is dragging us towards that kind of violent reactions. But we shall not go into that. And that's one of those things that we should underline. That instead of following that violent approach, we will follow the gentle approach. Secondly, it is good to know that those who are also at the head of the church also are going through an orientation towards social media. I want you to know that. As we are going through this, they too are going through this. You see now when bishops are appointed able to go, there's a formation for young bishops. All of those things, it is involved. Because they are trained. How do you handle these things? How do you help their communicators? They go back to the dicastery for evangelization, and then they are helped. Because just like some of us went to eat, during my days we were using the tag right. When I was ordained and I was made financial secretary, that was an orientation towards all of this. How to react, how to handle situations not violently, and putting the truth before and also. Sometimes you may feel that they are not reacting, but they want to follow the right direction. And those of us, you see, the church is hierarchical structure. If you are there as a communicator, you have a head, you have others, and there is this line right up to the bishop. If you just sit quiet and wait, you can also follow up and find out what is happening, and even guide your bishop on how an issue like that could be handled. You could. Philippe is here in the conference as our own guide. If I have an issue in the Pontifical Mission Society that I want to bring across, I go to him because he has the grace of it and he has done it. And if I am doing something wrong, I'm sure you will approach me on pay. C'est pas comme ça. C'est ça. Voilà les chemins dont we can. We have to also help our leaders. Don't overestimate that they already know how to handle these things and how to approach them. I am sure it's clear. The way you put across something on social media as a Catholic communicator matters. It will not be kind of confrontational stuff or you are rebuking or violence. estimate that they know. But the church should never be violent over social media.
Thank you very much, Father. Peut-être prochainement, on aura besoin d'une formation comment gérer les crises dans la communication des crises. Now, Father, I just want to give I will come to you, just, I don't know, something which we did, and it now depends on the kind of issue that is being dragged. For example, just an example, probably there's some sort of fake information about investment, or a pastor being so lazy and not doing work, who has siphoned some money, for example. And you approach him, for example, and he says he doesn't want a press conference. What you can do as a communicator, if it's a particular project I'm talking about, you can decide to highlight on the progress of that with information you get from inside. Highlight and project the activities of that pastor in your reports, in your news, and in your social media platforms, and the projects that are going on. I think it doesn't attack or respond immediately to the person, but it kind of already sets a tone. Because if you start report, for example, if they say, for example, if there's a story that the president of the National Episcopal Conference has embezzled money for the construction of this conference, and then you as a communicator, you now take on progress of that, you are purely propagating another, presenting the truth without being confrontational, and also to some extent disseminating the false information that has been done. So now, it doesn't apply to every context, but this is kind of a subtle way which we as communicators, in case we have these barriers, can start navigating through some of these.
Thank you, and I will expect that is wonderful. A bishop is being condemned over social media as, I don't know, spending money, spending time, and then somebody comes out with sometime on a game, and then people say, so this one is really working. I'm struggling. And then this is what you are counteracting without confronting, and you solve the problem.
Good morning. Us through this, I just have a little comment. What I have observed is that oftentimes we are more reactive than being proactive, and so we notice that when false information comes to light, we find ourselves in a way where we are trying to react, but our say that we cannot react immediately and in the way in which we would have loved to react. So, as Catholic communicators, what can we do? Because what we are really lacking behind is crisis management. What can we really do to move beyond the reactive position where we usually find ourselves to be more proactive? Thank you.
And what I discovered, and I talked to one of my friends who is a bishop, concerning what she brought up, somebody is condemned, and we are supposed to come out and react to it and confront it. I discovered that it becomes what they call ping-pong. You react, the person lies, and then you react, and they are experts in picking on what you have written and taking. You cannot even find yourself inside. And when they like again, stay quiet. Don't even answer. Just focus on the pastoral work. And what she's asking, how can we be proactive? The only thing that this can be proactive, Catholic communicators can be proactive about, is controlling the message of the truth. For me, that is all. Because you may not know what the next word like. Okay. It's not so. Everything positive and every detail about it, the poor to Okay? Somebody is out there and he has got pages. To handle him before he came out with this. You could only be proactive by, after the proclamation of that message, give a clear, resume of what it is all about, following what the Muslim said to us. Now, if somebody takes your write-up and takes the Bunga's write-up, somebody who is intelligent will say, this is false information. We cannot be Jesus to know before it happens. But when we put the truth already in the air, they know what is correct and they can follow that. Of handling side issues by standing firm.
Okay, thank you very much. We should rise up, please, and give Father a round of applause.
Merci beaucoup. Permettez-vous, ici à la conférence. Achou Ama. C'est un père pour moi. C'est un collègue. Donc, on travaille ensemble ici, lui. Grâce au deux comme ça, aider par et venir assister à la compagnie qui était aujourd'hui la soutenu.